back to my channel. Heather Stanford here, and finally, it is my book talk day, my review for the books that I read in January. Started a new Pop Sugar reading challenge, and I have to say Storygraph has been a big help in helping me to keep organized. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I don't have that many followers yet. Psst. Hit like and subscribe and dingling the notification bell so that someday these people will want to sponsor me and more money. Okay? I'm just saying, it would be a great Valentine's Day present to me. But anyway, like I was saying, Storygraph has been fantastic. If you have different reading projects you like to do, they are a great place there where you can get analytics of the types of books you like to read, help you keep track of what books and certain challenges you're doing. So highly recommend them. Anyway, so I did it a little differently this time. I am doing the prompts, but I'm also utilizing some of the children's books that I read in my class and also in my little story times that I do on Facebook. So, and that would be Auntie Heather Story Time on Facebook. It's on Sundays, usually around 5-ish, depending on daylight. So there we go. All right. So enough plugging about the different stuff. Let's get to the book reviews. All right. So the first book I read was the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society by Mary Ann Schaefer. It's a book with a map in it. Juliet Ashton is a London writer in 1946, and she receives a letter from a stranger on the Channel Island of Guernsey, thanking her for a book that she had donated and he had gotten from, from his library. And this is the beginning of the story of correspondence revealing the story of an eccentric group of people who survived the Nazi occupation by forming a book club and the adventures that they had. Now, what I really like about this is the style of the writing, because you don't get the whole conversations. You only get it in fits and starts with the letters that are sent. So it's epistolary, but it works, and it's a lot of fun. So my husband and I read that one together, and which is a good, fun time. 4 bookmarks on that one. The second book that I read was Clementine by Sarah Pennypacker. This has been a repeat read of mine to my students throughout the years. It's the book with the song lyric in the title. Oh, my darling Clementine. Like I say, I read this every year to my second graders. It's a very relatable book series. And, think Beverly Cleary's Ramona, modernized, Junie B. Jones, only with fewer language issues for those that are turned off by that. So Clementine narrates her own story in a mix of inner monologue that is rooted in kid logic and her impulsive actions, which gets her into a lot of trouble. So like, for example, cutting your friend's hair and then coloring it with felt marker, and to being the hero of the Great Pigeon War. What I really like about her, the story, and what my students like about it is that, a lot of kids are like very impulsive or are neurodivergent in some way or another, and this resonates with them in a very positive way. It's like, this is a kid who is just trying to do the best she can. She doesn't always think before she does things, but her heart's in the right place. And when she cut her friend's hair, it was because she had a scissors mishap, getting glue out of her hair, and she was just trying to help, and stuff happens. So highly recommend that book. 5 bookmarks all the way. The next book I read was picture book Cozy by Jan Brett. If you're familiar with her books like the Hedgehog books or the Mitten or the Hat, things like that, Cozy is in the same line as in the Mitten and the Hat. The story is about a musk ox named Cozy, and gets separated from his family during the winter, but he's not alone because various animals take shelter under his warm coat. And it starts with very small, like lemmings, and then it builds its way up to Arctic foxes and wolves, and it's it's like one of those fun things is like, how is that managing to fit all up in there? Well, the same way that the old ladies follow the fly and the horse and the cow and all that stuff. So very cute story for bookmarks. Now, this next book was a favorite prompt from a past challenge, and it's The Overstory by Richard Powers. This is a book that I can't stop recommending to people, all right? It's beautifully written. It's the journey of several people from different walks of life and their relationship with nature, and specifically trees, okay? There's Mimi, who's an engineer, and she gets involved in a conservation protest after the tree in front of her office gets cut down. There's Douglas, who landed in a tree in Vietnam, basically saving his life, and how that's resonated with him over the years. There's Nile, a young computer wunderkind who fell out of a tree and is left crippled and ends up developing gaming software. Nick comes from a long line of tree-obsessed family members and paints the old chestnut tree in his yard multiple times over. There's Patricia, a tree scientist, who relates more with the natural world than with the human world. There's Ray and Dorothy, who bond over crazy projects, anywhere from skydiving to community theater to planting trees. And then there's Olivia, who has a near-death experience and believes that voices want her to help the trees, which leads to some very, very interesting and emotional moments. And then there's Adam, a psychologist who is writing his dissertation and comes into contact with the protest groups and how he interacts with them and how professional or unprofessional that might be. Now, there is a reason why I chose to reread this book. One, it's awesome. It's an awesome read. And the first time I read it, it was in the middle of lockdown. So it had been a couple of years. At the beginning of the year, or towards the end of around New Year's, on Facebook, a place that my husband and I like to do open mics pre-pandemic, was hosting a book club that just happened to be reading this book. And I saw it and I was like, ooh, date night. Let's go. Because my husband's read the book too, and he really enjoyed it as well. It's definitely a very emotional read. There's a lot of possibly triggering moments throughout, between disability and family, and I mean, there's just a lot. I can't quite describe it, but it is worth every iota of the 5 bookmarks that I give it. If you get the opportunity to read it or to even listen to it on Audible or CD or whatever, do it. It is so very good. Next one I read is called Penguin Problems by John Jory. It has alliteration not only in the title, but in the author's name. I thought that was clever. It's a picture book. It's about a little penguin who complains about everything, from the cold and the snow and the fishing for food, his position on the food chain, being able to recognize his friends and family members when they all look alike, until a random encounter with a walrus reminds him to appreciate the world around him by changing his phrasing. So there are science misconceptions out there, things like walrus don't live in the same area as penguins do, so that's a little awkward there. And there's the preachiness from the walrus that kind of brings the book down to the 3 bookmark category, but the overall concept of it is very cute, and just the way the attitude on that penguin Hashtag relatable. Just saying. Next book was another picture book called Goldie Luck and the Three Pandas by Natasha Yim. Has color in the title. Goldie's a happy little girl who's just a bit unlucky. She's clumsy and she's sometimes careless. Her family's celebrating the Lunar New Year, and she's tasked with bringing the neighbors a plate of turnip cakes. The neighbors are pandas, and you can imagine the rest of the story. What I really liked about this Goldilocks variation is that Goldie takes responsibility for her actions. She gives the baby her congee, her porridge, after she ate up his, and replaces the broken chair with one of her own, and she helps remakes the beds and helps clean up the place from the chaos she caused, which I really appreciate. And more stories need to be written like that, because sounding like an old person here, but the kids these days, they don't always understand that they need to take responsibility for their actions, that their actions have real consequences. So 5 bookmarks, one of the best picture book reads that I've done in a while. Then I read Fairy Tale by Stephen King. It has a book with mythical creatures in it. So I love me some Stephen King. I like the supernatural elements of it, the gritty, real world interlacings in between the supernatural and the psychological horror. But this one is more in the fantastical realm, but without being overly over the top. So the story is about Charlie Reed, who's your all-American high school senior football quarterback, basketball star, honor roll student, but he carries a burden that really no kid should have to carry. His mom died when he was a little boy, and his father self-medicates with alcohol. Alcoholism seems to be a big theme in a lot of the Stephen King books, and like most fairy tales, there's usually the main character loses a parent. Most of the time it's the mother. So we're already fitting in the tropes here. Charlie became his father's caretaker, and he prays to God one day to get some help and promises to return the favor. And after that, shortly thereafter, his father joins AA, and he himself cleaned up, and it sticks. It really does work for him. So after that, Charlie looks for any and every opportunity to repay the universe, God, whatever. Charlie even saves the life of the town recluse, the crotchety old Mr. Bowditch, when he falls from a ladder and breaks his hip. Takes care of the old man's dog, Radar, and looks after the house and starts home improvements. When the old man passes away, he leaves Charlie the house, the dog, and a bucket full of gold, and an audio tape explaining the source of that gold and the locked shed that hides the portal to another dimension. This dimension has all sorts of fairy tale tropes within it. Has an exiled princess, a curse plaguing the kingdom, evil entities to be conquered, creatures like talking horses, and crickets that provide guidance, wicked dwarves, and magical artifacts like a sundial that can turn back time, and a well containing a world-ending demon. I don't know if you could fit enough in there. Like many of the Stephen King novels, the inner journey of the main character is as much or more important than the external plot. 4 bookmarks are a very intriguing read. The final book that I read for the month of January is called Lily and the Octopus by Stephen Rowley. It has a queer lead in it, which was the prompt title. So the story is of Ted Flask, who lives with his best friend Lily, that's his aging dog, and they do everything together, and they have a schedule. Like on Thursdays they talk about boys, and on Fridays they play Monopoly, and so on and so forth, and they have conversations together. When the octopus moves in And what the octopus is, I'm not going to tell you because that would require some spoilers. But when the octopus moves in, Ted and Lily's world are forever changed. It is a very emotional journey, and it has lots of bittersweet moments in it. It does have some humor to help cushion things, as this man has his conversations with the dog, his internal monologue, and conversations with the octopus. It's 5 bookmarks, and I strongly recommend using the audio book version of it because the reader just enhances the experience. So there you have it, my books that I read for the month of January. I know it's almost halfway through February, but so sue me. February is a short month. Deal with it. All right. And I'm hoping to upload some more videos soon. And until then, I hope everybody is taking care of themselves throughout the winter season. And if you like these types of videos, please click like, subscribe, ding-a-ling the notification bell, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.